right, so we've been talking about the deep state efforts to subvert this president for a long time. But
Yeah.
there is a lot more information that we need to get, and there's more analysis that we need to know, especially as we're going into an election year. There's a fantastic new book out from investigative journalist and author Lee Smith, The Plot Against the President, the true story of how Congressman Devin Nunes uncovered the biggest political scandal in U.S. history. Lee joins us now. Lee, thanks so much, man, and congrats. I see the president tweeted about how great your book is.
Yes, it was very exciting. The president tweeted about the book. It's been a number one bestseller on Amazon, number one, and number one on Barnes and Noble. So it's very, very exciting, and it's testament to everyone understands the historic importance of the work that Congressman Nunes and his team did investigating the FBI investigators.
Now, we've had a lot of news coverage. I've talked to people. I couldn't even begin to count the hours and the days we've spent on this Russia collusion hoax. There have been some good books written about it. My friend Dan Bongino has a book about it. I mean, what are you focusing on in the plot against the president, and what do people need to know that they may not already know?
Right. Well, I wanted to tell the story, explain what happened through the perspective of Congressman Nunes and his team. Some of their names that haven't really been reported that much before, like one of his leading investigators, a gentleman named Kashyap Patel, who's a very fascinating character. And as the congressman said, and I recorded in the book, without Cash, they would not have been able to do all the things they got done. And it's remarkable what I found reporting the book with them, speaking extensively with the congressman, with Mr. Patel, with Mr. Jack Langer, who's Congressman Nunes' communications director. These guys were standing in the middle of mayhem, and they were actually the only thing for a while between Trump and impeachment. They were the only ones who were running an offense. This was while Jeff Sessions was the attorney general, and he had recused himself. So had Congressman Nunes and his guys not found stuff, not requested documents, not asked for different things, not made their case on TV, we might be in a very different situation right now, where these deep state operatives might have actually taken down the president.
What kind of things did they find out, in that you said they were able to go on offense and not just allow the Democrat anti-Trump coup to play out?
Right.
What were some of the big eureka moments that they had?
Well, the first thing that they found was that the Clinton campaign had paid for the dossier. That was the first big thing they found out. Another thing they found out was how Assistant Deputy Attorney General Bruce Orr, who had no business participating in this investigation, was actually not only a part of the investigation, the FBI's investigation, he was also former British spy Christopher Steele's back channel to the FBI. After Steele had been fired by the Bureau for speaking to the press, Bruce Orr, whose wife Nellie worked for Fusion GPS, was the back channel to the FBI. So they found that. They also they were also the ones, and that was the Inspector General who located the texts between FBI agent Peter Strzok and his girlfriend, FBI lawyer Lisa Page. There was the Inspector General who found that, and then the special counsel Robert Mueller reassigned Strzok. But it was Nunes and his guys who found out what had been going on, and they demanded these documents, these texts, which were eventually, after many long and arduous fights, delivered to the Hill. So, I mean, they really, when you look at what we know about the Russia investigations, the abuses and likely crimes committed during the FBI's investigation of Donald Trump, it was they who found it. The most important thing, of course, they found was the fact that the Clinton campaign's opposition research was the centerpiece in the FBI's portfolio of evidence to obtain a warrant to spy on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, which of course opened up the communications for the entire Trump team. Basically, one of the important cases that my book makes is that what happened here is we often forget who was the primary beneficiary of the FBI spying on the Trump campaign. They weren't just spying to amuse themselves and to torture Trump and his advisors. The primary beneficiary of the FBI's work, the FBI's operation, anti-Trump operation, was the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Now, you mentioned some of the abuses and possible illegality. What are the biggest abuses that you get into in the book that we know happened, and what are some of the ones that you think the evidence points toward happened, but we need to find out more about?
Yeah, one of the things we need to find out more about, and I cite certain documents in my book that I acquired. I think one of the things we need to find out is, well, the case I make is that Christopher Steele did not write, or he was certainly anything but the primary author of the dossier named after him. One of the things that I found is they were actually doing opposition research, investigating the Trump team's possible ties to organized crime. I have a document dated May 20th, 2016, and that shows that's what they were doing, Fusion GPS, investigating the Trump team's ties to organized crime. Within a month, when they say they bring on Christopher Steele, the first Steele report that is written is June 20th. At that point, there's a profound transformation. It goes from an opposition research regarding Trump's ties to or alleged ties to organized crime to Trump's alleged ties to a foreign power. This lays the groundwork for a counterintelligence investigation. So one of the questions that we need to ask is not when the FBI got the dossier, not when they started looking, because as you know, Buck, there's a lot of controversy whether they got it in July or whether they got it in September, as they say for the cover story. The question is whether or not the FBI wrote the dossier or directed the dossier so that it would help them obtain a surveillance warrant, a spy warrant on Carter Page. That's an enormous question that comes out of this.
So you think that there's the possibility that, because what we've been led to believe, at least to this point, is that the dossier was taken in good faith by the FBI and then given to the FISA court. What you're saying is, what if the FBI was going back through Christopher Steele? We already established Bruce Orr, DOJ, talking to Steele and saying, get this, and an active participant in that dossier process, and then turned around and acted like it was just this external intelligence source that they had in order to get FISA warrants. Is that, am I on target?
The evidence in my book points to that, and that's certainly a question that we need to have very solid answers about. But again, Fusion GPS, the researcher Nellie Orr made these claims. They were doing opposition research into Trump's ties to organized crime. That Steele dossier has nothing to do with Russian organized crime. That has to do with the Trump team's alleged ties to a foreign power. That's a counterintelligence matter. So these are two very different things. And the idea, someone showed them how to do it, showed them what they needed to write, what they needed to claim in order to push toward a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant to monitor the communications of Trump advisor Carter Page. This is an enormous issue, and this is one of the main takeaways from my book.
Now, we're speaking to Lee Smith, author of The Plot Against the President, the true story of how Congressman Devin Nunes uncovered the biggest political scandal in U.S. history. Lee, the plot is not over yet, right? This story has not ended yet. Where do you see this going, and what else do you want to focus on and find out about?
Right. Well, when you look at what the dossier is and what we've been going through for 3 years, and what we see right now with the House Democrats pushing for impeachment, it's a terrible thing that happened. The Clinton campaign injected a conspiracy theory into the American public sphere. It's almost as though the Clintons, Hillary Clinton, cursed America. because they didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. She decided she would inject the conspiracy theory and leave it there. And now, at the very least, our elite have gone mad. You can't help but turn on CNN or read the pages of the Washington Post or see House Democrats like a bizarre cult, like a bunch of obscurantists going on. First, it's Trump and Russia, and now it's Trump and Ukraine. But for Nancy Pelosi, for the high priestess Nancy Pelosi, it's the same thing. All roads lead to Vladimir Putin. It's madness. Do I think Trump will get impeached? This is what I hear from much more informed sources. The real lasting damage, however, done by the dossier and done by the Russia operation is not only to American institutions like the FBI, the DOJ, likely the CIA, and the U.S. press, but it's to America as a whole, the public sphere, the way we speak with each other, the way we conduct our politics, the way we live next to each other and get along with each other. This thing has driven the country mad. My book is an effort to get to the bottom of what happened, to try to clarify some points so that someday, in the hope, the lunacy that was kicked off by the FBI's Russia investigation will come to an end and we can go back to normal politics, have our debates, our partisan debates between Republican and Democrat, and we can do our regular politics. That's not where we are as a country right now. As much as President Trump is doing and as much as he's succeeded, we are not in a healthy place right now.
The book is The Plot Against the President. Author Lee Smith. Lee, great work, man. Congrats to you so far.
Thank you, Buck. Thanks very kindly.
And please come back and tell us when you get more, all right?
I look forward to it. Thanks again for inviting me on to talk.
All right. Take care. Oh, and we are back here in the Freedom Hut with the man himself, my fellow The First host, Mr. Jesse Kelly joins in on this action now. Jesse Kelly, everybody. Thanks, Jesse. What's going on?
I prefer to call myself the legend, Buck, but I mean, if you, whatever the man works, I guess.
I think we could do that. I think we could start just to refer to him as the legend Jesse Kelly. That would work. What's on the Jesse Kelly radar right now? I mean, I know you got your show coming up. What are you going to be talking about? What's top of mind?
Well, we're going to go over this Vindman thing today and just exactly what that means. It drives me crazy when they do this, Buck, and I know you've seen this before. I know you've actually personally experienced this before, is when they take anybody, a veteran, a child, or anybody who's carrying their approved message, and then all of a sudden act like they actually care about that person's thing. You know what I mean? Nobody who praised Vindman yesterday gave a crap about Vindman or his rank or his Purple Heart or anything else. He was sharing the approved message. So now all of a sudden, well, you can't criticize him. He's a veteran. That's funny. The left never obeys those rules for me. They never obey those rules for you. I wonder why.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in the CIA, the left would trash the intelligence community all the time. I mean, when the Bush administration was in charge, intel community would just get the worst of the worst from all the major media outlets. But in the era of Trump, when there are some intel people that obviously hate Trump, it's, how dare you? These aren't bureaucrats. These are honorable public servants, sir. It's so classic. I love it.
It's so transparent. And I mean, they do this all the time. This is just example number 1,000 of it. You remember, it was just a few weeks ago, we were all going to die in 12 years because a 16-year-old girl said we were. And just because she wants to destroy the country's economy and your way of life, that doesn't mean you have the right to criticize her. She's just a child.
Did you get called a child basher? Because I got called in media publications a child basher. I didn't even criticize her. I criticized the stupid adults who listened to her.
Oh, yeah. They called me every name in the book, and I did the same thing you did. I didn't criticize her just because she's a 16-year-old girl. I didn't listen to 16-year-old girls when I was 16, let alone now. But it's just all the people acting like she's some kind of Nobel Peace Prize winner. Shut up and go back across the Atlantic.
There were professional journalists who were expressing their disappointment that I think it was I forget if it was the president, the prime minister of Eritrea got it for helping to end the conflict between Eritrea and Ethiopia or something like that. Or maybe it was the president of Ethiopia. I forget. One of those two countries. They've been in conflict a long time. Point being, that's real stuff. But that individual got the Nobel Peace Prize and not 16-year-old Thunberg. And there were journalists who, at least theoretically, make a living from knowing about things who are like, what an injustice.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, we can all put that to bed now, right? Though, Buck, I mean, that concept, that thought that journalists make a living by knowing things. Journalists today make a living by creating, completely manufacturing outrage from thin air. And that's what they do. You wake up that morning, you work for this jerkwater publication. Okay, what anti-Trump piece are you writing today? Oh, well, there's nothing in the news. I better just invent something. And then the next guy will write something about the same thing, and on it goes. And that's why we've had 3 years of fake crap.
Now, Jesse, if I had to get an answer from you on this, which is worse, MSNBC or CNN?
You know what? You know what's worse, and it's actually neither of their fault. I would say CNN is worse, but only because of this, Buck. There was a time in this country. Now, I would argue we've never been there with these major networks. There was a time in this country where CNN was thought of to be the middle of the road. You know, you had Fox, who's thought to be right. You have MSNBC, who's always thought to be left. And neither of those companies have really made any apologies for that. But then, you know, CNN is the one down the middle. And so that's what's in every airport and everything else. CNN is way left of MSNBC anymore, and I mean way left. They're Slate in digital form.
Yeah, I think that they've turned into a hate Trump network specifically. I think it's personal from Jeff Zucker on down. I think that I think that the mandate from Zucker is we're gonna stop Trump. We're gonna end the Trump presidency.
There's no question about it. I mean, they don't realize how much they actually aid the Trump presidency. If they could set aside that hate for a minute and actually watch half these compilation videos that Trump puts out online that everybody loves and they're cheering and his base loves, they contain segments from CNN. They're not hurting Trump. They're writing his campaign material for him.
I think it's true. Where can folks go to watch and see Jesse Kelly? Oh, that's right. The same place they can see The First, which is what I'm doing too, which is channel 248 on Pluto TV. Jesse, one last question. We've got about a minute left. Is The First the single greatest new platform in conservative media and perhaps of all time? It's just early stage. I think the answer is yes.
Well, there's no question. I mean, it's you and I on there, Buck. Of course it's the greatest of all time. It's not the greatest new. It's the greatest now, and it'll be the greatest for the end until the end of time.
Fact check, 100% pure awesome. You have the Buck Sexton Show, the Jesse Kelly Show. There is no fat on this steak. It is all just deliciousness.
Be good, my brother.
All right, Jesse. Thanks so much, man. Guys, check out Jesse Kelly on The First, channel 248, where some of you are watching this now. Also, if you're listening on radio down at KPRC Houston, I think he's on 7 Eastern. So, yeah, my man Jesse Kelly. We like to just get a Jesse, you know, pop by, stop in, whatever we can. Don't tell him I said this. He's one of the most talented guys in the game these days. So, but don't his ego's big enough. Trust me. Let's talk about some crazy Democrat ideas, shall we? We didn't get to any of that today. I'm always discussing policy here on the show, and I feel like today we skipped past policy. What is the worst idea that a Democrat has put forward in the last 24 hours? Or what is the most buffoonish policy mistake that they have made? That's usually a tough question. There's a lot of entrants into that race. There's a lot of different directions you could go. And by the way, is this weekend the marathon here in New York? It is, right? Oh, anyway, I might go check that out. It's fun to be the guy who, and I was going to talk policy and I'm talking about the marathon, but it's fun to go stand by the finish line, or like about a mile from the finish line. Yeah, it is this weekend. Yeah, that's what I thought. Stand by a mile from the finish line, because people sometimes will wear their name on their shirt, and then you can just be like, that's right, dude, keep it running, keep it going. You just yell at everybody else. You just cheer people on. It's a lot of fun, especially when you see the guys who are really, like, it looks like guys and gals who look like they might fall over at any moment. You're like, come on, dig deep. You don't even know these people. You just yell at them. It's great. It's great energy. I love it. And then there's the amazing and also slightly depressing feat of watching the truly elite runners who are on their 25th mile, or if you want to watch the finish line, and they're running 26 miles faster than you or anyone you know could run 1 mile, or in fact, than most people could run 100 yards. Yeah, that's something. You see those guys and gals just flying past you. It's pretty amazing. All right, back to policy. I just got excited because I remember the marathon was this weekend. we have, oh, here we go. How do you pay Mayor Pete? He's supposed to be the serious, sober-minded one, right? He's not one of these crazy radicals. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He was in the military. How crazy could he possibly be? Well, as I discussed with you yesterday, a nonpartisan analysis of Medicare for All makes it clear that they simply don't have the money to pay for Medicare for All. And the only ways to pay for it would involve massive tax increases. I mean, mind-blowing tax increases on everybody, not just on the rich. The rich don't have enough money to pay for this. So, how does Mayor Pete deal with that reality? Well, he says that, let's let the mayor have his say. 17, please.
So the vast majority of the costs of my plan can be covered by rolling back these unnecessary Trump corporate tax cuts that went mainly to the wealthy. That'll cover all but about $100 billion of our plan. You might say $100 billion sounds like a lot, and you're right. But we have a plan to cover that part too. That's where our prescription drug plan comes in. So I got a plan to make sure that prescription drugs become more affordable in this country. A big part of that is allowing the federal government and Medicare to negotiate drug prices. And independent estimates of these kinds of policies suggest that we should be able to raise probably 200 or 300 billion actually in savings to the Treasury by moving in that direction over the next decade. So we're talking about something that not only makes sense for American consumers, that we have a savings individually, but also saves money for the taxpayer as a whole. And some of those savings can be applied to carry the part of the cost of Medicare for all.
This is just unserious. I mean, there's just no way that this is true. None of this can work. Medicare for all. If you were gonna take the existing Medicare program, which is not even as rich in benefits and all the rest of it as what Bernie Sanders, for example, and Elizabeth Warren are suggesting we adopt, but you're gonna save now. It's not just we're gonna pay for it. We're gonna save the Treasury money. Come on, folks. At what point is it just incumbent upon voters to not be dumb? The government's not going to, they're going to give a massive expansion of the single part of the federal budget that is the most problematic for spending us into oblivion, Medicare. That's the one thing that we cannot continue at our current rate without major financial consequences, negative consequences in the future. We're going to take that one thing, we're going to make it much bigger, and we're going to save money? Keep saying it. This is the jelly donuts that are free, that you can eat as much as you want. You'll never run out and will never make you fat. Do those jelly donuts exist, everybody? If I told you that I could give you a dozen jelly donuts, by the way, producer Mark, are we jelly donut in this place, or are we French cruller? Are we Boston cream? What is in fact?
I'm a chocolate guy.
Just chocolate straight through?
Yeah, but chocolate glazed, maybe with a little chocolate cream on top. Maybe a chocolate stuffed.
Respect. Acceptable answers.
Yeah. Specifically Krispy Kreme chocolate cake donut. Those are...
The best donut you can get, is it from Dunkin' Donuts, or is it in fact from that place in Canada that I can't remember what it's called?
Tim Hortons?
Yeah.
I've never had a Tim Hortons.
Because you're an American.
Yeah.
Because he loves America. Okay, but so the jelly donuts that you're eating, guess what? There are calories, they cost money, and they're not endless. And you know that without me having to explain that to you. It's like if I presented you with my endless jelly donuts that cost you nothing and that won't make you fat, you'd say, "Buck, come on." That is the intellectual equivalent of what is going on here with Medicare for all. You're going to have better care. Everyone's going to have care. No shortages, no rationing, and it's going to save the government money, and it's going to save you money. Who believes this? Who? What? Archimedes, sword in the stone. This is just, I'm sorry, man. It's not going to, this dog just won't hunt. I just like to say that. This dog just won't hunt. Say it just like that, too. Oh, and in case that wasn't enough for you to have to accept, that already, that's way beyond what I think is reasonable or rational. What about providing health insurance to illegal immigrants? Remember, we've been told this stuff that's not true about Medicare for all, but what about adding illegal aliens into the Medicare for all situation? So now, by the way, those of you that have Medicare, you've been paying your whole life. You know, it's this promise the government made to you, taking your money taking money from your paychecks all the time. They're going to provide Medicare for you later. Now illegal aliens they're just going to get that. I'm sorry. Illegal aliens that haven't been paying into that and haven't been filing taxes, they're not going to get Medicare for all from Democrats? I don't think so. Play 18, please.
In our vision, nobody is uninsured. We make sure that you can't fall through the cracks. We'll even retroactively enroll people onto this Medicare for All Who Want It plan if they had been without insurance. The idea for me is the most important thing is making sure you get insured. It's not making sure that the government's doing the insuring. I think that the public option can do a better job. But the most important thing is that one way or the other, you get coverage. And in our plan, everybody does.
They're not even talking about insurance. That's a Medicare for All, misnomer, not an accurate description of what is happening, what is going on. But health insurance is not what we're discussing here. This is just health. This is subsidized health care. This is the government with a taxpayer-funded monopoly on the decision-making about health care for every individual of the 320 million individuals in the United States. That's what this is. It's not insurance. There's no risk pool. There's no, you're old, you're young, you're this, you're that. You pay for this, you get this. No, it's just everyone's going to get the same. Everyone's going to get whatever the government tells them they get, and that's going to include illegal aliens. I would want to ask Mayor Pete, what about an illegal alien who arrived yesterday? What about an illegal alien who shows up next week? We still have problems at the border right now. We still have illegal crossings happening. They're going to get. So now America's giving away not just free health care, but the same level of health care insurance, to people that break our law and come here from anywhere around the world. This is crazy. This would have been understood to be crazy by the Democratic Party even as recently as, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago. And yet you'll see no drop in support among Democrats, really, for the candidates that are saying this stuff, even though it should be recognizably well outside of what anyone would think is mainstream political thought. But it's now this is Democrat Party thought. My friends, they're going socialist. The Democratic Party is a socialist party now. They can fight that definition as much as they want. They are a party of big government and central planning and redistribution of wealth. They are devoted to socialism. And in many ways, their social justice approach is meant to be a rearranging of power among different groups. So they're redistributing money and they're redistributing power. That's what they think that they should be doing, all based on the whims of a central committee, if you will, the elites, the governing apparatus that makes all these decisions. This is very, very troubling stuff. But Mayor Pete's supposed to be the sane, the reasonable, the smart one. And he's all in Medicare for All. And his Medicare for All plan is just fantasyland stuff. It cannot work the way he says it's going to work. It is unserious to say that it will do the things that he says it's going to do. But no one's going to hit him on this one. They're just going to let it go.
It's time for roll call.
Roll call. All right, let's see what we got in the roll call. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton or teambuck@iheartmedia.com if you want to email. Today we'll get into some of the Facebook. I feel like we've been favoring the email. You've got mail from back in the day. All right, let's get to this. Darby. It's a cool name. Listening to Kamala Harris say that she isn't doing well because America isn't ready for a woman of color to be president is ridiculous. My ex-wife is black, and she's far more successful than I am for one very simple reason. She worked her tail off. That's it. Your analysis is 100% correct that we as a country do not tolerate any of the bigoted behaviors the left constantly accuses us of. If sexism, racism, or any other ism is your excuse for not succeeding, you weren't going to succeed anyway. Yeah, I mean, it's just so easy for people to find some reason why things haven't gone exactly the way they wanted to because of an immutable characteristic beyond their control. And I just don't think that. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in America. I think that it happens far less frequently than we are told by the media. Let's see here. Robert writes, libs are jealous of Trump. He was the king of what? Married and surrounded by hot women. He's rich. He's got awesome kids. He's brutally honest. Basically, this guy's saying that he's awesome. Libs hate Trump because Trump is so awesome. Well, I like where your head's. I like where your head's at on that one. Let's see here. Chris, Buck, love the show. I hear you when you say the orange Adonis failed to deliver on his promise of a beautiful wall. That said, nobody could have fully anticipated the deranged antics of the Democrats. If a mayor comes in and promises to reform the police, and the entire establishment fights him at any cost and uses corrupt judges to thwart his efforts, did he fail, or did the opposition prevent him using a perversion of the law and accepted norms? Yeah, the wall is stunted, but he's working with the bounds of the law. Unless he wanted to pull an Obama, you have to judge his efforts in that light. You're being a little too literal and cute on this issue. Chris, buddy, why wasn't there a focus on getting the wall done when Trump had a majority in the Congress? Where was the wall then? Where was immigration action? First 2 years. I'm not saying that Trump doesn't have all those problems you laid out. I talk about how he has all those issues, but he kind of knew he would, right? Got the tax cuts done. Glad we got those tax cuts. The most classic GOP maneuver of all time. I'm not saying it's not good, but it's not a game changer. You know why? Because Democrats come in and say, okay, now we're going to raise taxes. There we go. It was nice while it lasted. A wall would be forever. And we don't have the wall. And we were promised wall. We were not promised, it's really hard to get a wall. Here we go. Kyle writes, hey, Buck, saw the snap about Belgians. I had one. Smartest, toughest dog I ever owned. Not an easy dog to own. Yeah, that's what I was saying. She destroyed every 6-sided cage we bought, sheared off lower canines, pulling a cage door through the smaller opening so she could get out of one. She scaled a 6-foot privacy fence. This is a Belgian Malinois, folks. And pulled it apart, chewed through another wooden fence. She had storm anxiety and frankly thought she was human, but was great with kids and dogs. They have a huge prey drive, so it cannot be an apartment dog, but they are a great breed. No, Kyle, that's well in line with what I've read about Belgian Malinois. Amazing companions, incredibly loyal, incredibly smart, fierce, and I think they're beautiful dogs too. But not meant to be in like a studio apartment, where you have like a little bed in the corner for it and no work for it to do throughout the day. No, it's definitely not a lap dog. I think I might have to get a lap dog. That'd be kind of fun. Brandy writes, thanks for reinforcing the advertisement on owning such a high drive breed like the Malinois or Dutch Shepherd. Malinois and Dutch Shepherd, by the way, different type, but they look it's for a layperson like me who's not, hasn't spent a lot of time with those two breeds. They look a little similar. They're different, but it's easy to get them confused. And they both also look a little bit like a German Shepherd. Some differences in the body and the coat colors. Anyway, Brandy writes, I try to save rescue so many Malinois and Dutchies that people discard because they thought they were cool and find they cannot handle the breed. Guys, the dog breed, I grew up with dogs. The dog breed really matters. And if you're going to if you're in the city, get a city dog. If you want a lazy snuggle dog, get a dog that likes to just lie around and have its belly rubbed. If you want an animal that is going to protect your home, is going to, be a working dog in some capacity, and you were a no dog handling, maybe think about getting a Malinois, but do not just be like, oh, they look cool and they, track down Baghdadi, so I want to get a Belgian Malinois. Not a good idea. Anyway, Seth, Buck, love the podcast. As a retired sergeant from the Army, this drives me crazy. That guy was out of step. He looks confused. Seth is saying he did not like the testimony of Vindman. Okay. Well, thanks, man, for writing. I appreciate it. And, team, that's going to be it for the show today. I hope you have thought it was as fantastic as I do. I'm going to keep asking you, please tell somebody in your life. If you're bored, if If you got nothing else to say, you're sitting across from someone at dinner, be like, hey, have you tried the Buck Sexton show? Listen to the podcast. Be a huge help if everybody listening to this did that. And with that, I hope you've enjoyed the audio, or if you're listening, or if you're watching on Pluto, channel 248, the first, thank you, Shields High.